So in 1985, less than a decade before Ruby Ridge and the Waco siege, there was an incident that occurred in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that you don't quite hear about as much. And it is now referred to as the 1985 Move bombing, during which the Philadelphia police dropped C4 explosives onto the rooftop of a row home in the Cobbs Creek neighborhood of West Philadelphia, and subsequently killed 11 people, including 5 children, burned down 61 homes, and displaced roughly 250 people. And before I get into the details of this incident, I think it's important to say that I'm not here to defend the Move organization. I'm here to question the response of the police and the way that this situation was handled in the years that followed. The reason that I'm not here to defend the Move organization is that they were not particularly good people. The Move group was founded in 1972 by a guy who took the name John Africa. He was a Korean War vet, and he was sort of disillusioned with what he saw as an oppressive, capitalist, anti-black society, government. And it's hard to blame him. You know, he lived through the Vietnam War, for instance, and the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s. But Move was a problem in their community. They were loud, they would have these protests, they engaged in graffiti, and they had confrontations with police, they would leave trash everywhere. Like their whole thing was back to nature, left-wing anarchism, and they would eat only raw food, and so they would leave the remains of fruit and vegetables and things like that all over the place. They made a lot of noise, they used bullhorns. They would stand outside of the Philadelphia Museum of Art and cause problems, and again, not here to defend them. They were a problem in their original location, which I believe is called Powelton Village in West Philadelphia. And so there was an incident in 1978 where a police officer was shot and killed during a confrontation, and 9 members of Move were charged and convicted, and they were forced to relocate in 1981 to the Cobbs Creek neighborhood about a mile away. And the same sort of thing happened in the years leading up to the 1985 incident that we'll talk about now. There were attempts to evict them, and finally, in 1985, the police were able to get warrants to arrest some of the members for disturbing the peace and firearms violations and things of that nature. And so they show up to the house on May 12th of 1985, and there are 12 people in the house at the time, 7 adults and 5 children, and they will not come outside. So this becomes a sort of standoff that lasts overnight, and in the morning of May 13th, a firefight breaks out between police and the adult members of Move. And the police are aware that there are children in the house, and yet they are shooting at one another anyway. And this lasts for about 90 minutes, at which time the police decide to escalate. And their plan is to gain access to the roof by helicopter. So they bring in a helicopter provided by the Pennsylvania State Police, and they drop what's known as C4 explosives onto the roof with the intention of blowing a hole in the roof, again, knowing that there are children inside. at which time they intend to shoot tear gas into the home and then enter the house by the roof and make the arrests that they need to make. Unfortunately, what they didn't realize is that there was so they say, is that there was a gas generator on the roof, which of course immediately burst into flames. And since row homes are connected, the fire immediately spreads. Now, they have already evacuated everybody on the block. They have sort of prepared the neighborhood for this standoff. But the fire rages throughout the day, and the firefighters are held back. The police claim for safety purposes because they know that the people inside are armed. The fire is allowed to burn and subsequently burns down 61 homes and leaves 250 people homeless. And as I mentioned earlier, 11 of the 12 people in the house are killed, 5 of which are children. There's one survivor, her name's Ramona Africa, and she is then charged with riot and conspiracy and all of these crimes. She's charged and convicted, and she serves 7 years in prison. However, the only person who really suffers any consequences in the government is the police commissioner at the time, who resigns. There are no charges, no convictions, nothing really changes. And so for decades, this situation just kind of, there's some chatter about it at the beginning, but for the most part, it kind of just it gets swept under the rug. And the thing that blew my mind the most when I was reading about this, and I wrote a song that was sort of inspired by this, that you'll hear at the end of this video. What blew my mind the most is that the remains of the victims were to be examined for forensic analysis by this guy named Dr. Alan Mann, who worked for the University of Pennsylvania and later for Princeton, and then were to be turned over to the surviving family members. See, at the time of the fire, there were dozens of members, but only, again, 12 people were in the house at the time. So there were surviving family members, MOVE members, who should have been given access to the remains after the forensic analysis. But they were under the impression that there were no remains, and they were never notified. And so the remains stayed at the Penn Museum at the University of Pennsylvania with Alan Mann until he transferred to Princeton in 2001. And they were studied, and they were eventually photographed and used in a documentary called Real Bones that was used in a class at the University of Pennsylvania. And this is how the family finally found out that the remains existed. So they start asking questions, and Alan Mann lies and says that the remains have been destroyed when he in fact knows that they transferred to Princeton with him after all of these years. And so it was a big scandal, and it just sort of, to me, added insult to injury that they would do this to these people, that they would displace 250 West Philadelphians who had nothing to do with MOVE, that they would kill children, and then mishandle so recklessly the remains of the people that they murdered. It just blew my mind. And so I wanted to talk about this. I mean, people have talked about this before, but I wanted to bring it up because people are often so interested in what happened at Mount Carmel near Waco and what happened to the Weavers at Ruby Ridge, but this doesn't get brought up a lot, and I thought I would put something together to highlight it. And so I hope you enjoy the song that you're about to hear called Real Bones.